What would you do if you were suddenly laid off from a long career in journalism and weren't sure where to turn? Well, if you were Justin Breen, you would create your own global company connecting entrepreneurs and visionaries from all over the world. Tune in to today's episode as we explore how Justin approaches life and learn more about his BrEpic company. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. First, a word from our sponsor, me. Are you feeling stuck in your business and aren't sure how to grow? Or maybe you're starting something new and just really don't know what strategy is going to work best for you. Well, then you might need my one on one coaching and consulting. I've personally helped businesses grow to the six-figure mark and seven-figure mark. Whether it's really diving into your ads and seeing what's wrong, giving you hands-on specific advice, or it's just taking a look at your overall strategy and giving you some recommendations for moving ahead. Just go to AndreaVall.com and go to the Consulting and Coaching tab for more information and packages that fit your needs. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. Hey, late starters, it's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am here with Justin Breen, who I have found we have a lot of things in common, which is really fun. But he is the founder of BrEpic, and which he launched just a few days after turning 40. Was that right?
6 days, yes, 6 days.
6 days, 6 days. That's awesome. So, we are going to dive into what it takes to launch a company, some of the pitfalls, some of the lessons learned in this interview. So, welcome, Justin.
Yeah, it's great to connect. Age is just a number, but mindset is
For sure. So, tell us a little bit about BrEpic and how that came about. You had a big career change with this, and give us a little backstory on how this happened.
I was a journalist for 20 years. I created entire first company based on how PR firms annoyed me for 20 years. So solve problem, create a solution, problem solve, successful global company. But entrepreneurs most damage people with best coping skills. So most anxiety, most depression, most potential for bankruptcy, most traumatic experiences as a child or young adult, but best coping skills. So highest IQ, highest EQ, most guts, all of that. Most people with zero business background can't start company after job salary was cut in half. So that was February 10th, 2017. I was a journalist, had job salary cut in half. Tried to find a full-time job, couldn't find a job. Incorporated April 16th, 2017 with zero business background, 6 days after I turned 40. Over the next 6 weeks, reached out to 5,000 people to find first five clients. So one out of 1,000 said yes.
Hmm.
Got fifth client. It's entrepreneur life. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah,
June
yeah.
1st, got fifth client. June 2nd, resigned. And then at the time, he's not retired, but at the time, Robert Feeder was the top media columnist in the Midwest. Did a story. Had started my own firm. So that was the first company. Now run and founded two global companies that only partner with top visionaries on planet. So it's been an interesting journey since job salary was cut in half.
Yeah, and it's what starts a lot of entrepreneurs' journey is this necessity. It is a challenge. Sometimes companies don't necessarily want to hire someone in midlife. It's harder to find the right fit, the right salary. So you just create your own, right? You make your own luck. And that
Why
is
not?
something that happened to me as well. I was laid off and
Figure
started
it
a,
out.
yeah, you figure it out and you just make it happen. Tell us a little bit about what BrEpic does. Let's dive into more. You said you were frustrated with how companies handled things. Tell us why you started the company and what it does.
Most of my day is talking to the world's top entrepreneurs. So, not humans, not consultants, not business owners, just top people changing the world. And these are endless ideators, futurists, they're all over the place, but they're the ones changing the world. And then what my brain does with that is it just takes all of that and turns it into patterns. I don't know why my brain does that, but that's what it does. So it can keep
Mhm,
up with the visionaries and then actually do something about it. Okay, that's
mhm.
the background. That's the background. And so the formula for creating a successful global company is surprisingly simple. Like it's four things. So you see a problem, create solution, problem solve, successful global company. So see a problem. Journalist for 20 years, annoyed by PR firms that sent useless press releases that talks about what someone does. Nobody cares. So as a journalist, you get hundreds of those every day from people you don't know. That's a problem. Created
Mhm.
solution. Company's entire process is on the website. We write actual stories. They become links on partners' website under news or blog. So it looks like a story you see in Chicago Tribune or whatever. Take that link, pitch it to media all over the world. Media is immediately interested. Problem solved. So it works for any location, any company size, any vertical. The only vertical we ignore is politics because it's the opposite of visionary abundance investment mindset. We only partner with visionaries. So there's no way
Mhm.
cost or charge, there's no nickel or diming. And so it eliminates competition, it eliminates nickel and dime thinking. It's a lot of fun. So it's just connecting people to other visionaries who are changing the world.
That's awesome. That's a great mission to get behind.
I appreciate you saying that. My wife is a pediatrician who also went to WashU. She's like full empathy and love, and so she taught me how to say thank you. So thank you for that. But like, visionaries are usually aliens within their own family, community, and verticals. Nobody understands us except top entrepreneurs on the planet. So spent most of my life talking to people who had no idea what I was talking about. Since starting entrepreneur life, just figured out the only people that understand what I'm talking about are people changing the world and who will actually do it. They'll just write the check, make the investment to do it. And that's fun because they're a little hard to find at first, but once you find them, they just introduce you to more people like that.
Right.
I was listening to your podcast with Mark Schaefer, and he's like, if you have community, you don't need marketing. You just create value for highest level people. They create value for you. I mean,
Yeah.
well, my community is just top performing entrepreneurs on planet, so it eliminates
Yeah.
most of society.
Yeah, and speaking of Tapa, I think we originally got a connection through Dennis Yu, who is
There you go.
amazing,
Yeah, he's a full
amazing.
maniac in a good way.
Yeah.
Full maniac, genius
Ye
IQ, genius. Yeah,
yeah, so smart,
yeah.
incredibly smart. So, what has been the biggest takeaway as you have
Mm.
developed this? Obviously, it's incredibly hard, like you said, to be successful as an entrepreneur. There's a lot that goes into it. What has been a takeaway for you with starting this new thing?
So many things, and again, my brain simplifies everything to patterns. My two favorite ones. One is if you have the right mindset, it attracts right network, which creates right opportunities. So we only partner with visionaries who live in abundance and who look at things as investments, not costs. So that's maybe 1 out of 1,000 people overall. So most people who live in scarcity think that's a small number. But if there's 8 billion people on the planet, 1 out of 1,000 of that is 8 million. So there's 8 million Dennis Hughes out there. Introduce you to other Dennis Hughes. But so that's one. Right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. The second is I just keep writing bigger checks to be in smaller rooms where the people in those rooms are making bigger impacts. So bigger check, smaller room, people in those rooms are making bigger impact. That allows me to spend biggest check, biggest investment in my family, wife and 2 children, where I can make the most impact. So it's the same
Mhm.
pattern formula.
Yeah, and how do you assess that risk?
Oh, nope. That's what separates entrepreneurs from humans.
Right.
Nope.
Right, right,
That's
right.
right. So there's 34 strength finders 34 strength finders, Gallup Clifton. I'm dead last in empathy, second to last in includer. For top visionaries, endless empathy, endless inclusion. All I do is talk to top entrepreneurs. I have not met one of those people that hasn't overcome at least one of the following four things. Most are two or three, and the most successful ones, not silver spoon ones, the most successful ones are usually threes and fours. So this is what separates you know, those people from humans. Four things are bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, two, depression, three, the highest level of anxiety that you can imagine, four, likely and or possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So humans, business owners, consultants, those are risks, those are excuses. Entrepreneur, nope, figure it out. That's that's what it is. Most people can't do that. That's where they're not top performing entrepreneurs on the planet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you felt overwhelmed in this journey at all, like starting something new?
You're kidding. So I'm three of those four. The only
Uh-huh.
one, knock on wood, I've never had to worry about is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy.
Mhm.
Found the most successful ones, the most successful, are almost always all four. I mean, again, that's why most people can't do it. They don't have the coping skills to be able to run that. So what I've seen, and this is why I wrote the second book, many times the entrepreneurs use those coping skills to create all these massive wealth, massive company, whatever that is, but many times at the expense of anything meaningful. No
Mhm.
family, torched family, multiple divorces. So the book's about how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. So I'm a dad who happens to be an entrepreneur, but fundamental difference. But overwhelm, I mean, that's entrepreneurial. I mean, that's what it is. So
Right.
that's why most people can't. That's why they stay small business or consultant because they
Mhm.
can't handle it. They can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about your book because it is about building a life, right? Building a
Right.
lifestyle. So talk about that a
Yeah.
little bit and share what went into that book.
So with the pattern recognition, I talk to 1 to 2 visionaries every single week that have let entrepreneur life destroy their family life or prevented them from anything meaningful. So I'm like, well, that's a bad idea. You don't have to do that, and you can actually make it collaborative. So before COVID, our sons are 8 and 10 now. Before COVID, saw them more than any dad I've ever met. Now I just spend more time with them. And it's just chapter after chapter of how not to destroy your family life or not to destroy anything meaningful for this life. As again,
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, most damaged people with best coping skills, they want to put family first. They want to have something meaningful. They just don't know how to do it. So that's why I wrote it.
Are there any tips you can share with us on how to achieve that? I know a lot of entrepreneurs obviously are workaholics. Are there
Most damaged people with best coping skills. Yeah.
Mm.
Addicts. There's a great book called Dopamine Nation.
Uh-huh.
About addiction. And entrepreneurship is just an addiction. But again, they take that trauma and they turn it into addiction for entrepreneurship and overworking.
Mm.
So that's what entrepreneur life is.
Right.
So, and then again, the family gets sacrificed. So the first step is that you actually talk about it, acknowledge there's an issue. But chapter 3 is winning the wrong game. So one of my friends, genius entrepreneur Jesse Elder, I was talking to him about this. For those who don't know Jesse Elder, look him up. He's a full genius, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers of other geniuses. But so I was talking to him. I go, "What's the deal with all these entrepreneurs talking about their cars or homes or whatever, showing this on social media?" And he's like, "Oh, they're just winning the wrong game." So it's asking yourself, if you are one of those people, what game are you actually winning? And just even thinking about it is the first step to actually doing something about it.
Yeah. But then how do you actually then take that next step? What's that next step of letting go of some of the workaholic tendencies that you might have?
So entrepreneurs, once they're aware of the problem, they'll actually do something about it. So
Yeah.
that's where a team comes in or a
Mhm.
therapist. I was talking to an entrepreneur. They have a podcast for mental health for entrepreneurs.
Mm.
They were asking me, is there a recipe for this? And I go, a good start is usually people like me, not always, usually people like me are married to stabilizing humans. So my wife's a pediatrician, love, warmth, empathy, rules, order, caring. And so, again, with that pattern recognition, a good start is marrying or dating or partnering with a stabilizing human. The ones that I see that are grounded, because, like, literally, my wife taught me how to say thank you. Hey, don't forget to pick up your children. And
Mhm.
certainly, someone like me can marry someone like me that can create a really interesting life. More often than not, complete disaster, dumpster fire, because there's no stabilization.
Mhm. As you were who have been some of your greatest teachers and influencers as you have built this business from the ground up?
The greatest is my dad. Chapter 1 of the book is The Cream Rises to the Top. Most sons, I'm guessing, have good relationships with their father. Mine's different. I'll explain. My dad was 61 when I was born, 61.
Oh, wow.
He'd be 100.
That's a late
So he was a World War II hero, shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, got back in the plane. You're either someone who can do that or you're not. That's an entrepreneur. So he became
Mhm.
an attorney in Nuremberg trials, president of an insurance company. So from age 5 to when I had a brain till age 13 when he died, he would say every day the cream rises to the top. So you're either someone that will do that or someone who makes an excuse. So it's been interesting to see that play out as an entrepreneur. First, as a journalist, it took 15 years to get to the Chicago market.
Mhm.
And then 5 minute meeting had job salary cut in half. So, okay, figure it out. Get back in the
Yeah.
plane without a parachute. So, and then again, talking to top visionaries all day, every day, except the weekends. Those people are the cream that rises to the top, or they'll do whatever it takes to do that. So we just partner only with the cream that rises to the top, or the ones that will do whatever it takes. So he's still number one teacher. him and my sons who are 8 and 10. I'm in two of the top entrepreneur groups in the world. Very grateful for that. One strategic coach, 25K a year with US, usually would invest 50K. Dan Sullivan is the co-founder of that. I'm very confident saying he's top entrepreneurial coach who's ever lived. I was just in a room with him earlier today. When you're in a room with people like that, you become someone like that. And then two, I would say Peter Diamandis, very grateful. He wrote the foreword for Epic Life. Dr. Peter is the top futurist maybe on the planet. So being in a room with people like that, Abundance 360, that's also 25K a year, easily would invest 50K a year. It eliminates what do you cost charge nonsense. So I'm very grateful to be in those rooms all the time.
Definitely great teachers and influencers right there, including your dad. Were there any, as you have built your company, has there been any pivotal moments that you've had, unexpected obstacles that you want to
Mm.
share as a teaching point with some of our listeners here?
Many. I was thinking because the worst day of journalism career, 20 years, was also the best day. That's the day job salary was cut in half. So that was
Mhm.
the worst day and the best day in Monday. So
Yeah.
that's not even in top 50, probably top 100 days now as an entrepreneur. It's gotten
Mm.
up to probably top. So again, that's what entrepreneur life is. The main thing I learned was at end of 2018, about 2 years into the journey, a little less than 2 years, I had made more money in 1 year than I'd ever thought possible because that you don't get into journalism to make a lot of money, at least most
Mm.
people.
Yeah.
So end of 2018, more money than ever thought possible. Never been more miserable in my life. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
More money doesn't equal more happiness. And it was a wonderful, it's very painful, but a wonderful learning experience to go through that realized 1 plus 1 doesn't equal two. And even though companies make a lot more money now, that has nothing to do with happiness. What really makes me happy is spending time with my family and growing network with cooler and cooler visionaries. So that was very unexpected, surprising, very painful at the time, but now very grateful I went through it experience.
Yeah. And why was that first year so painful?
I guess the word is corporate, but as an employee, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And then as an entrepreneur, um, I was making like 30, 40, 50K a month. The most I'd ever made as a journalist was 80K in 1 year. So
Mhm.
I was making 50K a month. In that year, I think 60K was the highest.
Mm.
And then you go from that to maybe making zero the next month. It was a
Mhm.
paralyzing feeling because you don't know where next thing is coming from.
Yeah.
And I just hadn't learned. I hadn't been in the world long enough to understand that's how it works. Um,
Yeah.
I'm glad I went through that.
It's a scary time, and now I've been an entrepreneur for 13 years, and
Right.
it's it smooths out. You realize later that it's gonna come, you can make it happen, but that roller coaster is scary for sure.
I applaud you. 13 years, that's wonderful. Most people can't, they just can't handle it. That's why they give up or go get a job. So I have endless respect for that. And your intelligence and EQ have to be very high. So either you can do that or you make an excuse or give up. And when you have a dad like that, and then my wife, our first date was before she started medical school. So,
That's a huge ride in itself. I have
oh,
lots of friends from WashU who medical school is a tough, tough road.
yeah. The human biological equivalent of entrepreneur life.
Do you have a favorite quote or inspirational saying? What can you share with our
Mm.
listeners that inspires you and keeps you going? I love the cream rises to the
Yeah,
top with your
that's
dad.
always the answer. But my other favorite one, Howard Cosell, always used to say, I tell it like it is. Most people don't appreciate my directness and bluntness, but the people who do are the top visionaries on the planet. They love it. So,
One of the things that I was hearing was the directness is kindness. It's basically just getting to the point and being super clear. And
mm.
that's the kindest thing to do a lot of times. Maybe it's hard for some people to hear it, but I think it's good.
Well,
So,
you said it in a more empathetic way. I always say that directness weeds out nonsense and attracts greatness, but
yeah.
maybe you said it in a kinder way, literally. And
Yeah.
that's how I learn in real time. So, thank you for saying that.
That's awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I wish you all the success with BrEpic and your future endeavors to connect visionaries. I think that's a great mission in life. And for those of you listening, we'll have show notes where you can find out more and get connected and find out about Justin's books. So thank you, Justin.
Thank you. And soon after this, I'll be introducing you to one of my partners who started her latest company at age 68.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Oh, yeah.
love that.
Full visionary.
It's great. So thanks, everyone. Talk to you again soon. Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.